I recently re-listened to Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. And spoiler alert, I absolutely love this book. It is everything that is missing from most leadership books and materials out there in the world. In this video, I'm going to fill you in why. Hi folks, my name is Chris Solomay, and on this channel I help people with personal and career development. If you like that sort of stuff, subscribe. If you don't. So leadership is a topic that has many untested experts spewing theories and information. That's why it's a topic that I've really come to despise. I saw Jocko Willink speak at a leadership event in Atlanta about 6 years ago. Hearing what he had to say left a lasting impact, and I love that he and his co-author Leif wrote this book, and it became one of my biggest must-reads of all time. As former Navy SEAL combat commanders, Jocko and Leif have led in the most difficult situations imaginable. War. During their time in Afghanistan and Iraq, the authors transformed from battlefield rookies to seasoned soldiers and leaders when it came to planning and executing missions with precision and effectiveness. Through trial, error, and commitment to excellence, they began to document and refine everything they've done within their team, Task Unit Bruiser, in order to have the very best chance of defeating the very vigilant and capable enemy that they faced. Every mission, decision, and procedure they were responsible for had literal life and death consequences. Extreme Ownership refines those lessons in a digestible form and translates them to make them usable for leaders of all types, really. Moms, teachers, and yes, high-level business leaders. So let's talk about the layout of the book. This book is divided into 3 sections. Part 1, which is winning within the war. Part 2, which are the laws of combat. And Part 3, sustaining victory. Each chapter starts with a real-life military example of a situation that vividly illustrates the lesson, and it's followed up with an example from the business world, leading you to a clear explanation and application for each principle. What I'll do for the rest of this video is share my favorite story from each section, told to the best of my ability, of course, not anywhere as good as Jocko or Leif would do it. Chapters 1 through 4 are titled Extreme Ownership, No Bad Teams, Only Bad Leaders, Believe, and Check the Ego. Extreme ownership is simply the ability for a leader to recognize that everything that happened within their team and within their mission is their responsibility, and that blame on others is not an option. The fact is, most people love to put blame on others when things go south. In this chapter, Jocko uses a battlefield example of having a team under his command engage in a friendly fire situation that almost cost the lives of American soldiers and their Iraqi counterparts. As the commander of that operation, Jocko feared that he would be relieved of his duty if he didn't confront the situation. When he and his team were able to collect back together in front of his commanding officer, he stood up and took full responsibility for the almost catastrophic miscommunication and vowed that he would do everything in his power to ensure that this would never happen again on his watch, which is really tough because they're at war. Hence, the term extreme ownership was born. But extreme ownership is not about being a do-all or a lone soldier. It is in fact the opposite. My favorite story in the book is told by Leif Babin. Leif tells a story of when he returned back to Navy SEAL Hell Week as an instructor. They were doing drills with inflatable boats where they had teams of 6 with each boat. They would have to run out with their boat against the waves, get the team of 6 in, paddle out to a buoy, paddle down the beach about a quarter of a mile or more to the next buoy, run back in, go up over the dunes, and of course, the team that won was rewarded just with the honor of victory, and the team that lost had a lot more hell to pay than that. During these drills, there was an apparent winner that was winning almost every race. We'll call this boat Team 6. So Team 6 is winning, Team 2 was losing all the races. At that time, one of Leif's counterparts said, hey, here's what we're going to do. we're going to take the leader of Team 2 and we're going to trade him with Team 6. So Team 6 was winning all the races, Team 2 was losing all the races. And Leif, of course, was thinking in his mind, like, how's that going to matter? You know, is leadership that big of a deal? Is ownership of your team and your responsibilities that big of a deal? So they called the two leaders aside. They told them what was going to happen. And you could see initially that, of course, one leader was very happy he was going to get the winning team. The other leader was very frustrated because he was obviously going to be getting a team that was losing. To Leif's surprise, within one race, things had flip-flopped. As they watched in the water down the beach, they could see that now Team 2 was really pushing up close to Team 6, but eventually all of the races were won by Team 2 and Team 6 for the rest of that day. Now, this story is illustrated in the chapter, No Bad Teams, Only Bad Leaders. And it really shows the reality that a lot of times we're working with very capable people, or maybe we're capable ourselves, but we're not doing the right things. We're not taking ownership for our actions, or we're not stepping up and leading when necessary. And to me, this story was just such an illustration of a real life situation where one change, just the person at the front of the boat, the person driving, the team, just one change made all the difference in a real life win or lose scenario. Now in part 2, The Laws of Combat, Leif and Jocko break down how to function as an elite performing team by using 4 principles. Number 1, cover and move, which is the principle of teamwork and each part of the team knowing their exact role and working together as one unit. Next is called simple, then prioritize and execute, and finally, decentralized command. Honestly, I could highlight every chapter in this book, but to keep this video under 2 hours, I want to talk about the principle of simple. In my opinion, from working in the corporate world and owning my own businesses, this is one of the most powerful lessons that any leader can learn. Jocko tells a battlefield story about a new army counterpart that was eager to get on the battlefield and get some. This army commander had been training off-site with Iraqi counterparts, but then came to the battlefield of Ramadi, which at the time was one of the most active battlefields and bloody battlefields in Iraq. I never served in the military, but the way Jocko tells this story, that entire city looked like a scene out of a World War II movie. Buildings were rubbled, and there were certain neighborhoods that were owned by the enemy forces. So this army commander comes in after a lot of training, but very little real-life battlefield experience, and he wants to take his team on a very complicated foot patrol throughout the city, walking through quite a few neighborhoods in which he would definitely encounter enemy insurgents. Jocko and he have a conversation, and Jocko says to him, "Look, I believe your soldiers are trained. I'm sure you're ready to go, but could we just simplify this one mission first, just to get your feet wet in this town a little bit?" The army commander finally subsides and agrees that he'll do a simple mission, which was really just leaving the base for a few hundred yards. When the army commander left with his team of Iraqi soldiers, as well as accompanied by a few Navy SEALs, Jocko set his watch because he knew that they would have engagement, meaning they would be in a gunfight on the street within just a few minutes of leaving the command post. Well, at 12 minutes, Jocko starts to hear gunfire, and then he hears the Navy SEAL machine guns engage with full force. There's no doubt that this is a battle, and his team, as well as the Army soldiers and Iraqi soldiers, are engaged against enemy fighters. I mean, the way he tells this story is super exciting. I know I'm not doing it justice. I'm sorry, I never served in the military, so I really can't even imagine the situation. Other than that it's story told so well. Immediately they're on the radios getting updates, and before too long, the SEAL team, the Army soldiers, they beat down the enemy and then they come back to base. When Jocko got to see the Army commander, they looked at each other, and the Army commander now knew that, hey, maybe I don't know this plan so well, maybe I don't know these streets so well, so I should probably simplify just a little bit. Hey folks, I just wanted to break in here for a second. Listen, are you trying to grow your leadership style? If you are, check out this video I made on the 5 levels of leadership. I think here you'll find some insightful information that is helpful for all levels of leaders. And also, is this review helpful for you? I'd love to know what's landing for you in comments below. And of course, for a daily dose of inspo, follow me on TikTok at ChrisSolome13. So part 3 is called Sustaining Victory. And these chapters are plan, leading up and down the chain, decisiveness in uncertainty, discipline equals freedom, and then finally, the dichotomy of leadership. I loved the chapter on decisiveness in uncertainty. In this chapter, Leif tells a story where he and Chris Kyle, the author of American Sniper, are communicating. Chris was in an overwatch position and spots an enemy sniper in a building that assumably already has been cleared by American and Iraqi forces. After a bit of communication, an Army commander asserts to the SEAL team to take out the enemy fighter. But something doesn't feel right to the SEAL sniper, Chris, who obviously is skilled and experienced in situations like this. In a tense moment, Chris says he will not engage, and Leif asks the Army commander to do something that was going to be very difficult, to reconfirm that the building in question was in fact the same building that they were all looking at. Because if this is not an enemy fighter, Chris could possibly kill an American soldier, which would obviously be a tragic and horrible outcome. Much confusion can happen in the face of war, and that was the exact situation that they were in at this very moment. Reluctantly, the Army commander sends a small team to reconfirm the location with Chris as overwatch. And he was advised that if this sucker moves, you shoot him. Almost immediately, when the team hits the ground, they realize that they have confused the building in question, and the building was in fact occupied by American soldiers. By Chris making this decision not to engage even when being pressured by Army command, they avoided an absolute catastrophe. In the chapter, Leif and Jocko go on to explain that indecision is the enemy of leadership, and that you can't always know with 100% certainty if your decision is going to be correct. But not making a decision makes a leader weak in the long run. So, after hearing my full assessment, you're probably not surprised that I give this book a 10 out of 10, because it truly paints a picture of real-life situations in both high-level military situations as well as the same principles used in business as well as just regular life. What you might also want to know is that Jocko and Leif has since written a sequel to Extreme Ownership that's available now on Audible, named after the final chapter, The Dichotomy of Leadership, which I will be reviewing shortly on this channel, so be looking out for that. But that's almost all for now. I just want to say thank you for watching this video, and of course thank you for subscribing to my channel, which if you haven't done so, please do. And if you like content on personal development and professional development, make sure you hit that like button and write me a comment. What landed for you in this video? What did you like? What did you not like? Do you think I'm a complete hoax? Either way, thanks again for watching. We'll see you in the next one.